Today's episode of Variant is brought to you by Lynda Com.
Today on Variant, I give you probably one of the most requested videos ever, the history of Spawn. Welcome to Variant, where we love comics more than I wish I still had my Spawn action figures from the 90s. I'm your host, Arris. Now, I get a lot of requests for history of episodes like Teen Titans, Watchmen, Namor, Anti-Venom, and the list goes on, and I eventually will get to them all and more. But today, I chose to talk about one of the characters you guys have requested the most, and one of the characters that got me into reading comic books, Spawn. Spawn first appeared in Spawn issue 1 in 1992 on Image Comics and was created and originally drawn by one of my all-time favorite Spider-Man artists, Todd Mcfarlane. Mcfarlane is an artist that pretty much reached superstar status among comic fans with his work on Spider-Man, which had featured Mcfarlane's name as both writer and artist. Mcfarlane ended up leaving Marvel and helped form Image Comics, which was a sea of change for the comic book industry, changing the very way in which comics were produced. It was at Image Comics where Spawn would be born. The first issue was so popular, it sold 1.7 million copies, which is absolutely nuts. To compare that to the best-selling books that are being released right now, they're selling just over 100,000 copies a month. Although the Marvel recent Star Wars issue 1, which is the return of Star Wars to Marvel, just sold under 1 million copies. But Spawn though, Spawn number 1. 1.7 million copies. During Spawn's second year of publication, Wizard noted that the top dog at Image was undoubtedly Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which was without the added marketing push of fancy covers, polybagged issues, or carded inserts, and had become the best-selling comic on a consistent basis that was currently being published. However, sales dipped around the time of Spawn 25, but by Spawn 45, it was again a consistently strong seller. The popularity of Spawn peaked with the 1997 Spawn feature film. The publicity for the movie helped make Spawn a top-selling comic book for May of 1997. However, the film was only a mild commercial success and failed to start a film franchise based on the character. Although the film wasn't considered a success, I still loved the crap out of that movie as a kid. It doesn't really hold up now so much, but I still remember being in New York at the time of its release and my parents taking me to go see it. I just thought it was the most amazing thing I'd ever seen. I was already a Spawn fan because of his comics, but now I was able to see him in action on this huge freaking screen. I was like in comic book heaven. And then of course, when it came out on VHS, I wore the crap out of that tape. And of course, there was the cult classic HBO Spawn cartoon series, which aired from 1997 through 1999. The series is loved by many Spawn fans and known for its mature content, as it contains nudity, cursing, and violence. So needless to say, this is not a child-friendly cartoon series. I actually wasn't even allowed to watch it when it was originally aired because I was like 10 years old at the time. So that's a brief history of who created Spawn and how he became so popular. But now it's time to talk about Spawn's comic book origin. But before I do, just know, like I say in some of my history of videos, there is no way I can mention every single story arc and thing that has happened to Spawn over his 20+ years in comics. So I'm just going to give you the highlights and or the overview, if you will. Spawn was once a man named Al Simmons, a highly trained assassin and was considered the best. He was a well-known soldier who was at his most successful point when he saved the president from an attempted assassination. He was promoted to a higher level of the CIA that dealt with things that the government had kept secret from the general public. However, Al soon realized that the government wasn't always right and started questioning if they were truly correct in their actions. This caught the attention of people in high power. Jason Wynn, who had long since been his superior, found out about this and knew that Al knew too much. So he hired Chapel, who was Al's friend and partner, to kill him. In a blazing inferno, Al Simmons was murdered and his soul was sent to hell because he had knowingly killed innocents in his CIA days. Al made a deal to sell his soul to a demonic being known as Malebolgia to get a chance to see his wife Wanda once again. He was allowed to come back, however, he came back 5 years later as some kind of strange hellspawn with no memory of what he had done. After remembering what he had done, he sought out his wife only to find out she had moved on and married his best friend, Terry, and had even had a child with him named Cyan. It was after this event that his demonic guide, the Violator, showed up as a clown. He revealed to Spawn that his purpose in life was to be a hellspawn that would do Malebolgia's bidding. The fight was interrupted by Malebolgia, and with that, Spawn realized his purpose. He must now survive against both the forces of heaven and hell. Now known as Spawn, Al's first adventures are anti-hero in nature. He takes down street gangs and organized crime, including their enforcer, Overkill, and he kills a child molester/murderer named Billy Kincaid. He takes over the alleys that comprise Rat City and befriends the homeless within it, becoming their champion. In particular, an old bum named Cagliostro, who knows a lot about him because he is in fact an ex-Hellspawn. Cagliostro and the clown act as polar guides for Spawn, trying to convince him to use his powers for good and evil, respectively. Fast forwarding a whole heck of a lot, and warning, this will contain spoilers for some Spawn comics. Spoilers begin in... Al Simmons eventually kills himself, and he makes his way to a certain point in the alleys, which is probably the same spot he returned from hell, and blows his head off, which is the one true way to kill a Spawn. Meanwhile, a man at a hospital under the name Jim Downing, who is without his memories and is healing unusually fast, awakes from a coma, and seems to have memories of Spawn. A janitor then tries to make money off his story and calls a lawyer. The lawyer then calls the janitor and tells him not to go to the papers, and then the lawyer commits suicide. Soon after, a thug is paid to capture Jim. Jim flees and they cause a massive amount of damage, but soon the thug catches up to Jim, but then Jim transforms into freaking Spawn and kills his attacker, and then escapes the burning hospital back in human form and is taken in by firefighters. Jim eventually travels to Rat City and finds Spawn's throne where he ruled and becomes the new Spawn. Fast forwarding a little bit again, Al Simmons makes his return in the Image Universe crossover Image United. In this series, he appears as the main villain. Spawn makes his appearance this time possessing a new suit which has an unlimited amount of power and now calls himself Omega Spawn. He showed up while many villains are attacking various heroes all over the world and meets his new replacement, Jim. Al Simmons makes all his plans clear to end the world, and he asks Jim to help him. Jim refuses and engages Omega Spawn in a battle, where Al easily gains the upper hand. Omega Spawn makes it very clear that he is superior and informs Jim that he will never truly know what he is part of, and he'll never have the answers he seeks. As he attempts to deliver the final blow, Jim teleports himself to a hospital. He tries to warn them of the coming threat, but is too weak. It is slowly revealed that Spawn is the one behind the sudden flow of violence all over America. Moving forward yet again, Al Simmons, the original Spawn, recently made his return in Spawn issue 250. Simmons is now in full control of his suit and powers, and plans on making his enemies feel what it's like to be hunted. The source of Spawn's powers comes from necroplasm. The necroplasm gives him his strength and durability. His strength is capable of lifting an entire building and throwing it with ease. Necroplasm is that green goo we're all familiar with. Each Hell Spawn is given a certain amount of necroplasm, and when that is gone, they go back to hell. Spawn's main weapon, however, is his symbiotic suit. His suit is called Letha of the 7th house of K, or K7 Letha. The suit is connected to his central nervous system, which allows him to control all parts of his suit. He uses his suit to create his chains, spikes, and to animate his cape to attack his foes, even cutting and dismembering limbs. His cape is actually one of the things that made me want to read Spawn as a kid. It's just so epic, but I guess so is his overall costume and design. Good job, Mcfarlane. The costume feeds off the necroplasm in Spawn's body. However, the suit can also feed off of the evil from humans, certain animals such as insects, bats, etc., and even from different parts of the city. Spawn's powers is only truly limited by imagination and his units of necroplasm. However, due to Spawn retaining his military training, he often uses firearms instead of his powers. Spawn also has a whole heck of a lot of other powers and abilities like time manipulation, teleportation, healing, shapeshifting, flight, hypnosis, magic, telekinesis, phasing, wall climbing, fire generation, and manipulation, and so many other unique powers I can't even mention them all. Just know, he's a bamf. And here's a little random fun fact I'm sure some of you already know. Current Batman artist Greg Capullo actually drew Spawn for several years before taking the reins on The Dark Knight. If I remember correctly, he drew Spawn for 80 issues, taking over at issue 26, and he drew one amazing looking Spawn at that. But now that brings me to the point of the episode where I give you guys some reading recommendations. You have Spawn Origins Volume 1, Spawn Endgame, Spawn Origins Volume 2, Spawn New Beginnings Volume 1, Spawn Origins Volume 3, and lastly, Spawn Batman. Did you know Todd Mcfarlane and Greg Capullo almost did a Batman Spawn crossover together? There was even cover art drawn by Capullo and everything, which I must say looks freaking amazing. Capullo is one of my all-time favorite comic book artists, and Mcfarlane, well, invented Spawn, so this would be a dream come true for any Batman or Spawn fan. But of course, it fell through for many different reasons. Now I know what some of you are saying, Arris, we did get a Spawn Batman crossover, which was drawn by Todd Mcfarlane and written by Frank Miller. And yes, I know, I actually own that issue, and it's great, but having one drawn by Capullo and written by Mcfarlane would also be great, so it just saddens me that it didn't happen. Lynda Com is an online learning company with more than 77,000 video tutorials that teach software, creative, and business skills. Memberships start at $25 per month and provides an unlimited 24/7 access to top quality video courses taught by expert instructors with real-world experience. Learn anytime, anywhere, and at your own pace, from bite-sized tutorials to comprehensive courses in web design, programming design, photography, business, audio and video, 3D, and animation. And you can learn on the go with their optimized mobile site or free iPhone and iPad app for members. Try Lynda.com free for 7 days by visiting lynda.com/variant. First up for Wednesday, February 18th, we have Storm issue 8. On the run and trying to clear her name, Storm pursues the mastermind who made her a fugitive of the law. Next, we have all new Captain America issue 4. Hydra initiates the next step in their scheme. Millions of innocents could hang in the balance. Here we have Batman Eternal issue 46. This is one of the largest scale Batman stories we've had in a long time. If you're a Batman fan, you need to read this title. And finally, we have Justice League issue 39. This is the finale to the Amazovirus story arc, and it will have some haunting consequences. And that brings another episode of Variant to a close, but remember, you can always like our Variant Facebook page to keep up with the show and all things comic related. You can also follow me on Twitter at twitter.com/Arris_Quinones, but I will see you guys next week when I talk about all things comics.
Spider-Man rejoining the MCU, this is actually a great thing. Everybody is hoping that this is a step in the right directions. We're hopefully getting a lot more collaboration going, and to where we can see the big events like maybe Avengers versus X-Men and everything like that. I'm excited. I'm ready to see it, and then it's a great time to be a comic book fan.
I think Spider-Man joining the Marvel Studios is amazing.
Hey Arris, I think Spider-Man joining the Marvel Cinematic Universe is one of the greatest things ever because Spider-Man's my all-time favorite superhero, and I am extremely happy that Marvel got control of their character, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to do with him.